There's been so much happening in the world of AI music these last few weeks that we have to talk about it today. But I can't prompt Treblo AI to write me an entire terrible synth pop album in under 20 minutes alone. I'm going to need a man who only listens to his own AI interpretations of Paul Simon's Graceland these days. John, are you ready to wade through the sonic waves of AI slop as we talk about the backlash to AI music today, sir?
I am, and you've just given me an idea. I was wondering what to do with my Friday night, and now I'm just going to be singing Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes and then working it into a Paul Simon backing. I've got the whole power of Ladysmith Black Mambazo at my disposal.
You do. If you go to Treblo AI this evening, I'm gonna put you onto this. If you go to Treblo AI and you literally put in Paul Simon, Black Mambazo, Graceland, and go generate.
But then maybe make the lyrics about my week in Melbourne.
Yeah, exactly. Just put into the tags, I don't care about apartheid South Africa, generate album, and that's what will be spread out.
I want to steal IP, break the boycott, and appropriate culture all at once.
I think Treblo is the AI for me, if it can do that. Last few weeks have been huge, and they're around AI music, and we haven't spoken about AI music for a while. Because if you took the handbrake off, John, as everybody knows, this would just be the AI music show and it would get very dull because all I do is live in the world of AI music. I experiment with the tools, I read the articles, I listen to a lot of the music that's generated with it, I listen to a huge amount of the public discussion, the national and international conversations. And in fact, there has been a large national conversation about AI music in Australia, which we will get to as well during this episode. So I said to you, look, we got to do it. There's so much coming up this week in AI music that's going to be really fun to talk about. And the first thing that I want to talk about is this song called Rubberz by this rapper called Fenix Flexin, which is like my favorite story of the last few weeks. So if I may, John, I'll just start by explaining the story to people and why it's so fun and how it's led it's basically led to Pitchfork giving hip-hop artist Tiger it's a 0 out of 10 for his new album, which I think is the first time in like many years that they've given anything 0.0 out of 10.
Wow.
Pitchfork, the famous online music review website. So Fenix Flexin, he's a rapper. He's been putting music out since 2017. I'd never heard of him until he had a song blow up this summer. And people were saying, look, we don't really have songs of the summer anymore because there's just too much music out there. But if you're going to say there was a song of the summer, you might say that it was Flexin by, it was Rubberz by this hip hop artist called Fenix Flexin. So like I say, he's been around since 2017 and he's a rapper. And you would recognize the style of rap. It's dreadful. It's all that kind of like mumbly, I'm on Percocets, gold. I'm dripping in jewels and everybody wants me and I have a lot more money than you do. And I spend all of my money on barbiturates.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the style. And and then suddenly, a few months ago, he releases this song called Rubberz, and Rubberz sounds like it's kind of it's the characteristics of his voice. It sounds like, but instead of being a trappy Percocet mumble rap song, it basically sounds like a sort of synthwave song, and the vocal and melodies sound very much like the Smiths or Morrissey. So he's gone from being, a Percocet trap rapper, and suddenly he's like, listen to my cool new poppy song. And I think the juxtaposition really worked because he is this rapper, and so he's wearing the diamond chains, and then he makes this song called Rubberz, which does have hip-hoppy lyrics. You know, now I bought a diamond chain. I'm
Right.
swiping cards and stacking chips.
Yeah, okay.
My pockets are getting thicker. But it sounds kind of like Morrissey.
Those are suspiciously generic sounding lyrics as well.
Yeah, suspiciously generic. And it is catchy. And so, you know, I give it that. And he was coming out and going, hey, guys, you must all love my new song. And people were going absolutely mad for it. It appeared on the Billboard Hot 100 chart when he released it. And kids absolutely loved it. It was a viral smash. But then people with a keen ear, or people who just had a look at or listened to the music that he'd been releasing previously, were like, this doesn't really sound anything like anything you've done before. I guess the voice kind of sounds like your voice, except you appear to be singing now with like a British accent and a Morrissey cadence, and you can really sing, and it doesn't sound like auto-tune. You know, auto-tune is typically pretty recognizable, and so a lot of people started saying, this is, we think this is AI.
Particularly, I imagine some people like you who've had a bit of a faddle with the available technologies and kind of know the telltale signs and just know this is what it would sound like if I put in these prompts and gave it this kind of direction or whatever. They were immediately tipped off, I think, to at least do a bit more digging.
I would be suspicious, but these tools are getting better and better. I think to be honest, the thing that would have tipped me off is just watching him in interviews, watching him speak, watching him attempt to sing, and then I would have just gone, "Oh, this is obviously AI." Because the song has a certain sophistication to it, which I'm just gonna be blunt. Fenix lacks a lot of things that are in this song. And so loads of people started saying it's AI. He just denies it flat out. And I think his producer, whose name I think is Perp, also denied it.
Short for
so they're just running around going, "No, it's not AI. Stop saying that. It's just a great song that I wrote. Stop hating on me."
And not only that, but he said, "I actually freestyled it."
That's right.
So not only were these my ideas, but they just flowed out of me.
Exactly. I'm so talented that I didn't even have to put pen to paper. I just freestyled this entire song. And he was interviewed by Andrew Callahan, who a lot of people will know is this sort of online filmmaker who has this channel or brand called Channel 5. A lot of people would interview him, would recognize him straight away. He's this kind of online, very famous interviewer filmmaker, and he's always got his finger on the pulse. And a few weeks ago, he convinced Fenix Flexin to let him interview him when the song was blowing up. So he goes and visits him, and he's very Louis Theroux in some of his approach, Andrew Callahan, in that he knows how to lull people into a false sense of security, which he does
deceptively
with Fenix.
Unassuming.
Deceptively unassuming. And he's he says to him, "Yeah, man, I just freestyle Rubberz." And then Andrew goes, "You freestyle Rubberz? Man, do you remember the lyrics?" And he's like, "Yeah, man. And then he starts trying to perform the song and sing it. And it's so terrible. And I do encourage everybody to first listen to Rubberz by Fenix Flexin, 35 million streams and counting on Spotify, and then go and watch Andrew Callahan, interview him, and get him to try and sing it. And you see just Andrew has this huge grin on his face as he attempts to sing it, because he just knows instantly, oh, the entire thing is AI.
Yeah. He just can't get the vocal style right. He sort of does this mocking or mock of a British accent, but pretty unconvincingly.
It's bad. Yeah. He's like,
and he gets some of the lyrics wrong.
That's the best bit, is that the lyrics to the song, obviously, you would say, I can't sleep through the night. You know, that's a kind of fairly understood phrase, is I can't sleep through the night. However, when Andrew Callahan asks him to sing it, he sings, I can't speak through the night. So he goes, but I can't speak through the night. can speak through the night. And Andrew's just going, this is so bad. And and then the nail in the coffin, and this is really interesting. The nail in the coffin, they're denying it, like the song's blowing up. He's performing it everywhere. You can find all these clips of him when these songs go viral, and I think this would be kind of interesting to my parents' generation and, you know, maybe even our generation. When these songs hit on the internet and on TikTok, the rate at which young people find out the lyrics and will then go and see a show with you, it just can happen in like a week. Like you can have a viral hit and then say, hey, everybody, I'm performing in your town tonight. And then you fill up a small hall or theater. And so there's videos of him coming out on stage with all of these kids holding their phone up. And the kids know all the lyrics to the song. So for weeks and weeks, he was getting away with it. And then this person online, producer, I think as well, who goes by the name Medicine, he came out and just said, right. The entire song is AI generated, and I'm gonna show you exactly how they did it. Because people had been trying to recreate the song in the most popular online music platform, which will also feature in this week's episode, which is called Suno AI, and they couldn't quite get it. And then this guy Medicine said, no, it's made with this new app that people don't really know about as much yet, which is called Treblo. And then he goes into Treblo and he basically just puts into the prompts. He goes, Fenix Flexin, post-punk, like 80s synthwave, generate. So that's what he puts in. And it pretty much spits back an extremely similar song. With the same vocal performance and same vocal characteristics as Fenix
and he
Flexin.
does something. He does a couple of things to kind of make sure that he's ruled out the possibility that it's spitting out such lyrics because it's kind of using his song as a inspiration, if you like.
Correct.
So he excludes that possibility, and he tries to, he shows you like what it would sound like if Eminem was singing the same lyrics or using the same prompt, and it seems to return. Well, for whatever reason, as I understand it, the platform the technology, I don't know, platform seems to return to the same tropes and imagery in a reliable way. So it's kind of talking about not being able to sleep through the night and stacking chips and bills. And, I guess because those are like, if you say like rapper lifestyle, then that's the kind of generic shit that it's going to revert to. But it just sounds like very close to the actual lyrics of Rubberz, which is amazing.
Yeah, this is another reason why people thought it was AI before they discovered the platform that it was made on, is because of how mundane and generic and dumb the lyrics are. So it just goes, and how they don't make a lot of sense. Swiping cards and stacking chips. I saw you sinking ships. Left me standing in the pouring rain. Now I bought a heavy diamond chain. My pocket's getting thicker. My watch is moving quick. The watch is moving quicker. Money talk is much louder now, but I can't sleep through the night. Can't sleep through the night. Still see your face in the glass. Why do you call when you're short on cash? Can't sleep through the night. I'm losing my mind tonight. Bankrolls on the table. And so people were just like, man, even for Fenix, these are pretty dumb lyrics. And then this guy, Medicine, he gets this Treblo platform to basically spit out the same tropes just by putting in, as you say, tags like, rap lyric, rap lifestyle lyric. And so he's basically able to like recreate something that sounds very much like the song. Another hilarious giveaway, which I love, is that prior to the song getting released, this platform called Treblo, it went under a different name. It was called Sonato, and he just did a little bit of digging on these guys' social media like Perps and Fenix Flexing, and had found that when they were promoting the song early, they had forgotten to take the suffix out of the file name, and so it was like Fenix Flexin Rubberz open brackets Sonato.mp3. So
it's the kind of equivalent of those, those gags or gaffs where people they're reading a speech on the Senate floor, and then they say, as part of the speech, let me put that in more plain English or something. It's just like they leave the prompt in.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They finish their speech and then say, would you like me to say that again in a shorter would you like me to prompt that again, to spit that out again in a shorter version for you?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. And then they sit down.
Yeah, and so he just proved that the entire thing was AI generated, and then eventually, after denying it for weeks and weeks and weeks, of course, he claimed, completely lying, said, I never said that it was AI generated, which he completely did say that it was for weeks and weeks. He said, it's definitely not AI generated, but stop saying that about me. And then he was caught, and then he was like, hey, I never said I used AI, just a classic Trump.
Never said he didn't. Never said he didn't.
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
He
Yeah,
said, I
okay.
never said I didn't use AI, which is bullshit.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
Yeah. And so then I think what's interesting about this particular case, I mean, it's now that, that the tools are at this point where people without a discerning ear can't tell. To be honest, even people who are music producers, there was no proof that it was AI generated. Nobody was saying, there wasn't a lot of people saying, I'm 100% sure it's AI generated. A lot of people were like, yeah, we're like 85% sure this is AI generated. So that's how good all of this is getting. But what's really interesting is that it's not like it was a song that came out and had no artist attached to it. Like a lot of the discussions that we've had about AI music are about these bands like the Velvet Sundown that don't exist, and then they have they do well on Spotify. This is a guy who was already a rapper and an artist for 10 years. Yeah. And he's decided, okay, I'm just going to release a song that instead of me performing, we literally made it in 3 minutes with 2 prompts into this thing, and we put it out. I think it's also just quickly, yeah.
And it's not as though, it's different from that kind of scenario where it's just a fake outfit. It's somebody saying, not just someone saying, like Beyonce might, I'm performing this song. Okay, sure, it might have been written by somebody else and produced by this person and that person. It's a guy saying, this is my personal work. I freestyled it. These are my ideas. And so selling that kind of authenticity as part of his shtick. But also, he's not just concocting some component of it using AI, like, the backing music or the melody or whatever. He's not performing at all. It's not him. It's his it's like modeled on his voice, and that's about it.
That's right. Yeah. I should also point out what I couldn't work out, which I think I've understood now, is because I was like, well, how is the characteristics of his vocal tone in the song? Because I used the same program, Treblo, and I just mirrored what Medson did in his video, where you just put in Fenix Flexin 80s synthwave post-punk generate, and I made myself a Fenix Flexin song that sounds very similar to Rubberz. Yeah, and right. I think the reason that you can put his name in and it spits out his voice is because this Treblo platform it's a bit more of a cowboy platform than Suno, where I think it has been trained on a lot of public music. And I think that Fenix Flexin, having been around for as long as he has, that his voice had just got into the training. So he's big enough. I think that like if you go like Alexander Holland, if you put my name in, it's not going to spit my voice out because I don't have a public catalog of music. But I think his voice was just caught in the catalog, so he was able to basically recreate his own voice because it had been trained. I think he's put a lot of music out over the last 10 years, even though I'd never heard of any of it. And so that's why the vocal tone kind of sounds like him. But then people said it sounds like Labi Siffre, which is true. It's got this kind of very sort of British, there's a Britishness to it.
No. But just do a Labi Siffre cover.
So glad to hear your voice again. And so he gets found out, and everybody just goes, well, this is fucked. And I think what's really interesting about it, and this is kind of what today's episode is a bit about, is that I think that we've been wondering for a long time if people will care If the law will care, and it's starting to feel like, at least at the moment, that enough people do care, particularly music journalists, particularly real music fans. People are really pissed off that this has happened and that a guy was able to prompt an entire song and then perform it. I mean, this is quite incredible. I mean, he's going out on stage and, you know, the song just plays and it's the classic, you know, contemporary hip hop performance where he literally just sings over the actual track. They don't even provide a backing track with no vocals. It's like, no, they play the song that you hear on Spotify, and occasionally he just mumbles his own crappy voice over the top of it. But yeah, and so everybody was really pissed off and was like, this guy's lying, and it could be, it remains to be seen, but if you know, the kids will care, and if he can still keep performing it around the place, it's obviously got him a huge amount of brand recognition that he didn't have before. But most people are just like, this guy's a corny clown, and he's probably destroyed his career that he'd built over 10 years, because now everybody's just going to be like, well, you're just a trash liar. Like, you just...
just this generation's Milli Vanilli. But, I mean, do you think Spotify is going to respond in some definitive way? Do you think if he had come out and just said, oh, this is AI generated because that's the way the wind's blowing, it's still my voice, and I don't know, it's just how music is made now, maybe people would have been more okay with it. I don't know, but it's part of it is it wouldn't have done anywhere near as well as it has done if he had said. He's saying that now that he's been caught out, he's saying exactly what you said, which is, oh, it's just a tool, but of course, if that's really what he thought, then he would have said that when he put the song out. It's not like he put the song out and said, I used AI and it's just a tool. He put the song out and said, I didn't use AI. This is me freestyling. He just bold-faced lied. And it's only, we'll get to Josh Fawaz in a second, but my understanding is that fellow's basically running the exact same line. All these people release music. It only becomes popular because they deny using AI or they mask that, and it's only when they're caught out that they say, "I never said that I didn't use AI, and it's just a tool like anything else, and y'all are just hating." That's right.
I think the really interesting thing is that people are really pissed off, and people have put their foot down at this and said, yeah, we're not having this, or at least a lot of the tastemakers, and it seems like the media in particular, for the most part, is saying, this has reached a point now where this can happen, and we're not having it. People are particularly pissed off. You asked about Spotify, and Spotify has responded not directly to Rubberz,
right? But
what it has done, and Spotify, you have to keep in mind, has to walk a very fine line here, because they're interested in making as much money as they possibly can, and they just have to sort of go where the wind is going. And there's also, of course, this question of, well, to what extent will we accept AI in music making? So it seems like the reason that people are particularly pissed off about this Fenix Flexin song is because it was entirely AI generated. It was prompt. Nobody played a chord. Nobody strummed a guitar. Nobody sung a lyric. Everything was produced inside the box with a few sentences, and that people said, yeah, we're not having this.
That's too far.
Of course, that's too far. But of course, people are using elements of AI in their songwriting, like famous songwriters that are now using it as a tool to generate ideas. And there's little elements of AI. You might make a song that's 80% the traditional way that you would make a track, and then 20% of it you've generated a cowbell line with AI, or a couple of vocal chops are AI generated. So
people seem, how am I going to get what rhymes with stacking ships, and it'll say something, give you an idea.
You'd be like, man, if what am I going to say if I can't, should I say can't sleep through the night, or can't speak through the night? Which do you can't speak through the night.
can't speak through the night is not a known phrase, so I would go with can't sleep. Unless you're wanting to be particularly idiosyncratic. So,
I don't think he's that meta, Phoenix.
No, he's not. There's no hidden meaning about him not being able to speak through the night. But I think it's the extent of the concoction, or the extent to which he's used AI, coupled with the fact that he has lied about it, and the fact that he's, as I say, in this setting where he's trying to sell himself as the creator of the music, as somebody who's actually freestyled it, and that's part of the appeal, I guess. Whereas maybe if it was like some band that was just making sort of electronic synth pop, then people would be like, oh, whatever, like this was already like sampled and kind of, 9/10 not them anyway, so maybe this is fine. But maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. So am I right that Spotify is saying, has started to say, we might label music that's AI produced, or we might at least tell people when it's got AI in it.
Yeah, so they're trying to respond, but it's very weak source. A lot of people were very excited this week because they had said we are going to start people thought what was going to happen was that they were announcing that they were going to start using their own AI tools to identify AI music and label it as such. And they had said as well, something along the lines of, we are not going to allow AI music to be added to our editorial playlists, because this is what's really been pissing people off, is that loads of the success of people's music careers now, and the money that they could possibly generate from the tiny amount you can generate from streaming, comes from your music being added to these Spotify editorial playlists, or even algorithmically suggested playlists where you open your Discover Weekly and there's artists in there. Now, if Fenix Flexin's Rubberz in there and 10 other AI generated songs, then that's 10 places that could have gone to real artists who have been slaving away making their music. So Spotify said, we're not going to allow that anymore. We're not going to put AI generated music, or at least this is what people thought that they had said. What it appears that they've actually said is, at the moment, all they're going to do is label artists who purport to be real and are not. So, for example, the Velvet Sundown, who I think we might have mentioned before, they're this 70s West Coast Americana soft rock band that exploded with a few albums in a few days on Spotify, and it turned out the band doesn't exist and all the music was generated likely in Suno. So they would be regarded as an AI artist because it's not a real person, it's an AI persona. So basically, my understanding is that Fenix Flexin's Rubberz wouldn't be labeled as AI because he's a real guy.
Yeah.
He's not claiming to be, he's not a fake person, which I just think this is just ridiculous. Like, that's not doing anything.
No.
So I think it remains to be seen the extent to which they are going to do this. But of course, they're in a very difficult position as well, because yes, it appears that Rubberz by Fenix Flexin should be labeled AI. Clearly, the entire song is prompted. But as we say, if 60% of a song is AI and how do you split that up?
Yeah.
Like, this is where it becomes really,
and how good are
really
the
difficult
detection tools anyway? And
exactly.
I mean, as well as that, obviously Spotify's got a bit to gain by not having to pay artists and using AI in those playlists and whatever, because I guess over time that saves them whatever kind of piss weak margins they're giving artists when they play their music on Spotify. But en masse, that's quite a significant saving if they can generate listens for, I don't know, AI artists that don't, maybe nobody's getting that money, or maybe Spotify's putting up those bands themselves and they're just kind of making 100% profit on whatever the listens are, then so much the better. But yeah, this thing with Fawaz was interesting because, I don't know who the hell he is again. Like, he's not someone I'd heard of, but he's an Australian DJ and music producer who apparently has been around similar time frame, so like since 2015, and similar kind of thing where he's been putting stuff on up for years and hasn't really broken through. And he's been kind of gloating about the success of this cover that he made of Like a Prayer, or this version he made of Madonna's Like a Prayer, and says, on one of his posts a couple of months ago, says, I've been posting my songs online for years and nothing really happened. Today, I told myself I'd give it one last try, and I woke up and my life was changed forever. So it's that similar kind of thing where he's broken through, to an audience that he previously didn't have with this song, which I think is also part of the outrage, that, in his case, it's a cover of a Madonna song, or a version of a Madonna song, or uses samples from a Madonna song. But they're saying, again, people are saying this is just kind of AI slop that he hasn't really had a hand in producing. Not only that, but Madonna was kind of was releasing music for the first time in a long time the same week that this song was kind of topping the chart in Australia. So people were saying, like, it's a bit of a sad reflection that Madonna is producing real music that people aren't listening to because they're too busy listening to AI-generated covers of her old music. And like, what does that mean? What does that mean for the actual artist whose creative work is at the center of this version of the song, as well as what does it mean for Fawaz? And similarly, people are saying, Spotify needs to start, or, Spotify and other platforms, I guess, but principally Spotify needs to start telling us when people are doing this. And it's similarly, in his case, people, the last I saw anyway, which was probably a few weeks ago, ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, was trying to contact him, had contacted him and his reps through the week, and just kind of received no response, which is pretty telling in itself, because they're like, is this AI? You'd want to say no if it wasn't, wouldn't you? I would have thought. But that's, another thing that occurs to me with all of this is, like, we're going to start running into false accusations at some point. And, it kind of diminishes the credibility of people who are actually making new music, because you can't be entirely sure that that's what they're doing. And, it's a bit like AI usage everywhere else. Like, if I'm marking essays and I don't really know what's AI generated and what's not, and that as a student whose essay is being marked, well, why would you write your own essay? Because it's like, well, yeah, I can tell myself I wrote that essay and be proud of that, but the consumer, in this case me, in Fawaz's case, the Australian public, doesn't, necessarily know the difference, and they're not going to, it's just about what works and what doesn't, what gets the result and what doesn't. And so I don't know to what extent you can really expect musicians to keep their hands clean and not do it unless there's a really strong incentive. And what would that be? If for example, Spotify was to start getting serious about using these tools, I'm not even sure how good they would be. But maybe that would be better than nothing. I don't know to what extent you can really detect this stuff anymore. And if you can now, whether that will still be the case in a year, who knows?
Yeah, one thing that you can do, and this is getting a little bit in the weeds, but I think some people kind of understand this. One way that you could easily just avoid any type of AI detection, it would take a little bit longer, is you can actually get these music AI generating programs like Suno to just generate for you the musical note information, which is called MIDI. And then you can just plug that into your own software, and then there's no way of there's no artifacts of it coming out of a prompter, because it's actually just giving you. And perhaps the easiest way to think about this as well is, let's say that you're a very talented person who can sight read music, but you're just not very creative. You could get AI to write beautiful chords for you, and then you can just play them on a grand piano. Yeah. And what's happening? What do we think about that? Yeah. There's obviously absolutely no way that you could tell that's right. Oh yeah, that needs some musicologist to go, oh, I think that incredible chord progression was written by AI, but you were able to perform it. I think obviously one of the things that's going to happen from this is that the value placed on actual musicianship, you think, should become a real premium. You know, this is gonna, if you can sing, if you can play an instrument, then you really are going to be able to separate yourself from a lot of these people. Again, the question, like you said, is who's going to care? Kids who maybe don't, and perhaps we are just in a moment this week where we're just in a moment this week where people are caring in the media. But we'll do our annual AI music episode next year, and it'll be interesting to see where things will be at, because they move so quickly. This episode wouldn't have made any sense last year. The tools just weren't good enough to convince people that the music was real. And now we have now we have Fenix Flexin, and we have Fawaz. That Fawaz vocal is, I mean, I guess you probably have to have spent a lot of time listening to audio, but as soon as the vocal starts on that Fawaz tune, it's just like anybody who's used those tools knows straight away that that's an AI singer. Yeah.
But also, I mean, it is kind of, I don't know, I still am finding out about these things. Like I read that on ABC. Shout out to my brother, Tom, friend of the show, who put me onto that story, or put us onto that story. He probably knew about it, but I didn't. And so I'm reading it, from written by some journalist who's probably a Gen Xer, not that much older than myself, maybe my age, who knows? Probably not that much younger than me though. So they're gonna be like, this is weird and outrageous. And I'm like, yeah, it definitely is. And they're interviewing people who are kind of academics and whatever. But somebody who's 19, who's grown up in this, kind of come of age in the last few years, and is just very inured to the use of AI. I mean, who knows if they really give a shit? They're just probably like, well, this is a cool song that I like, and I can go to a concert with my friends and see someone perform it. Who cares, what their role is? I mean, maybe that's wrong, but it's hard to know at this stage. And it's hard. I mean, these stories end up being a bit of a litmus test for how different cohorts of people react to the same, story, and how shocked and incensed, people are. Depends in part on, obviously, like how new this stuff is, and how kind of different it is from their perception of what gives music its value. And people like me still want to know that Fenix is touched by God, and those lyrics just flowed into his brain, and he gave us a gift
into his Percocet adult brain.
Yeah, exactly. It's fascinating.
I think there's a couple of other things I just want to mention before we end this episode, because there's a couple of other interesting things that have happened. So I mentioned that Pitchfork had given Tiger a 0 out of 0, a 0 out of 10. So what happened on the back of Rubberz by Fenix Flexin is that a bunch of very cynical people who don't really care about their own artistry anymore, one of them being rapper Tiger, who's famous, like he's been around for years and has a big following.
Yeah.
He just saw it appears what's happened is he just saw the success of Rubberz by Fenix Flexin, and him and his management team just went, well, that works, so we'll have one of those.
Wow.
So they went into that same program, that the Treblo, and they put in, it looks like what they did. This is from the Pitchfork album, Pitchfork review. I'll read this to you. I'll read this to you as well. The opener to the Pitchfork article is the rap from the Tiger album Starface. The rapper's slop pop concept album is smug and complacent and depressing. Its very existence has made the world a worse place. So that's the intro. And then it says, if you want to get a sense of what Starface actually sounds like, I suggest you go to the free-to-use music AI music generator Treblo, Ni Sonato, allegedly the one that Fenix Flexin used to create his hit single Rubberz, and type in the following tags: Tiger, 1980s synth pop new wave, 80s pop Tiger, snug thriller synth. And then it says you basically get spat out the album that he has released. So he used this same program, typed in his own name.
Yeah.
Obviously, like I said, this Treblo has been trained on millions of songs, and there's going to be Tiger ones in there. So it knew what Tiger kind of sounded like. And so then in an afternoon, him and his team have just like spat out a bunch of terrible AI slop songs. And then he released it as an album and said, everybody go and listen to this. And again, denied that it was all AI music, AI generated on release, and then had to renege. And he's being clowned so hard right now on the internet. And everybody's just saying, well, you've just destroyed your career and what a terrible person you must be. You were never a musician. You just wanted to be rich and famous and relevant. But Pitchfork haven't given a zero in a long time. And so that's got a lot of media attention.
And poor bugger, his ex-girlfriend Kylie Jenner is just gallivanting around with a theatre kid from school, Timothy Chalamet. He's being mogged. Being mogged by a guy with the physique of a 12-year-old boy. And
and the last story, John, which is interesting, is that this in the last month, Suno, which is the main AI music generated platform that everybody uses and is in many ways the most advanced, I think you can argue.
Right.
The Munich Regional Court ruled in early August that Suno infringed German copyright by training on and reproducing GEMA. That's like the German equivalent of APRA, it's the Performing Rights Association that represents artists' works. Infringed German copyright by training on and reproducing GEMA-produced songs, including tracks like Mambo No. 5. We often talk about that. It's one of the greatest German songs ever. Shout out Lou Bega. Daddy Cool, Rasputin, and Forever Young from Alphaville. And the court's findings that Suno models had essentially memorized these songs, reproducing them from simple prompts, and so unlawfully trained. And now Suno owes damages, the amount still to be calculated, and is barred from training on or offering models built on this repertoire of German music. So this is an example of the industry hitting back. Suno's been very move fast and break stuff, Silicon Valley, and suddenly they're starting to be pulled into line and regulated. And what was really interesting about this case, I saw a TikTok video about it, is the way that that GEMA were able to prove in court that Suno had trained its algorithm and it had trained its models on their music was by just putting into Suno. I'll just read here. This is from DW, Deutsche Welle. During a court appearance, GEMA demonstrated this by prompting Suno AI to create tracks with original lyrics of different popular songs in its repertoire. So I think it would put in like the lyrics to Rasputin, and then say like disco 70s, and then put in Rasputin lyrics, and basically Suno just spat out what sounded exactly like Boney M, like the same kind of. So it was just obvious. They put in, or put in Daddy Cool, and then put in some Daddy Cool lyrics and say 70s disco German,
then it
would spit out
song.
what just sounded. It just sounded like Boney M. And
Joseph Haydn national anthem, and it just dun, 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 dun.
Who's Joseph Haydn?
He's the composer of your nation's national anthem.
Oh, okay. Well, I should know this.
I assumed that was in the
what's happened is
test.
I shouldn't have been given it. And then Suno has in the last few weeks put a statement on its website as well. This has been big news, saying they are going to start watermarking, which means hiding in Suno generated songs, like a little identifier, so that if you suspect that a song may have been generated in Suno, you'll be able to run it through a special Suno watermark identifier, and Suno will go, yes, actually we hid our watermark in this song, and that is entirely generated by us. So because they've done a bit of an about turn, and they've said, no, we're here about AI was only ever meant to support musicians, which is of course just coming out now that all this shitstorm's happening.
That's true. Although it is kind of, I don't know, one way to look at all this stuff is does give me a degree of hope that people aren't just going to follow this rabbit hole as deep as it will go, and people are just going to make squillions of dollars ripping off other people's ideas. Like there is a point where people will hold artists and hold these companies to account and say, we don't want this. And, you know, maybe there are genuine good faith people in those companies who are like, actually, yeah, despite wanting to make a lot of money, we don't really want that either. We don't want a future where artists no longer exist and we're all just being fed ersatz versions of songs from before AI came along. But yeah, it's sort of it's a glimmer of hope that there's a limit to people's tolerance.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I think it's such an interesting moment, because I think we were waiting to see to what extent the public would accept this, and to what extent would the courts accept this, and to what extent would these platforms be forced to get into line, or to try and would be forced to try and allow some level of professional musicianship to continue, rather than everything just going AI and no artists or writers being able to have a career or have their music even heard, because it would just be swallowed up by the swamp of AI slop. There's apparently something like 40 to 50% of all the songs getting uploaded to Spotify now are entirely AI generated, of course, as you can imagine, because people are just going, generate me album. And then so they are, I mean, they must have an entire division, Spotify and the other platforms like Deezer, where they are just constantly having to make decisions about, fuck, what are we going to do? Because there's just this tidal wave of this coming in now. But we'll check in again next year, and see where things are at, and see.
They should get us involved as consultants. I feel, you know, you've got the musical know-how. I've done a philosophy degree and a law degree,
totally.
So skill set couldn't be more on point. Yeah. And if they don't,
this is the pivot.
If it's full steam ahead, fine. We'll upload the DPTM soundtrack album, which is entirely AI generated and just has synth pop songs based on things with themes of the show. Yeah, exactly. We'll upload this weekend. I'll upload 20 albums of DPTM. You know what I'll do? I do have a Claude project that scrapes all of the transcripts of our episodes so that we have a repertoire. Yeah. And I'll just feed the transcripts. Can you just make
of the last 150 episodes?
Can you just make 500
20
albums?
Concept albums?
Yes, that's right. just flood it. I think it'll be quite a good.
Maybe I'll get it.
I think it'd be quite a good reality TV show to have. Let's say a panel of 3 judges. You could have, you know, Will I Am, for example, that sort of person. And then someone like Fenix Flexin comes on, having been accused of AI fakery, and has to perform Rubberz live. And they determine, could this man have written that song, or is this an obvious fake? And then you just get people having to perform songs that they claim to be behind and failing miserably to even remember the lyrics, and then they get thrown into the dustbin of history.
Yeah, we'll check back in a year and see, are people now accepting entirely AI generated songs, or rather are people going, no, we demand to know if songs are AI generated. Will we start seeing more actual singers and actual bands back in the charts? I mean, this could be one of the silver linings of this whole thing, is that artists who always were fake, even before AI, artists, you know, famously Jennifer Lopez's hits, she's not even fucking singing on. Right. It's like this other woman that sings. And so will it be the case that actually now we start really placing a premium on actual talent and people that have spent years learning their craft, and the charts are just full of like pop punk bands? I'm here for that. I'm here for Spotify. I'm here for Spotify just being filled with. I don't even care if it's like terrible music.
Bands.
As long as it's real people, I just want to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I always say this, for the last 10 years, in fact, for my whole life, I only really pay good money to go and see bands. Like, I'm not paying money to go and see the Chemical Brothers. I'm not paying good money to go and see. I'm not going to pay fucking £70 to go and I love the Chemical Brothers. I love I love electronic music, obviously.
Yeah.
But I know how electronic is made.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
that
yeah.
it's made spending months in a bedroom alone and that you cannot recreate it on stage. So I just pay to see bands. I just pay to go and see, and that's kind of what I would like to see in the Spotify charts.
Totally.
Now.
Yeah. Just to.
I mean, we haven't even. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
We haven't even touched on, I just said we haven't even really touched on the fact that electronic music is so different when it comes to AI because there wasn't never really anybody performing it live.
That's right.
It was always a studio thing. So
exactly.
I think that's like a different conversation of how it is affecting and is going to affect electronic music without artists.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's a whole nother episode if you want to hear about it. John, why don't you tell people about where they can hear more from you and your writing on topics like this?
If you want to hear more from me and my writing, last newsletter, for example, I did a whole deep dive into the history of when did people start wearing clothes with writing on them, because I just saw someone with a joke on their shirt at the airport and I thought, man, that is weird when you think about it anthropologically, that we have clothes that are meant to keep us warm, but also have a joke written on them. So I did a whole deep dive into that in less than 500 words. If that's the kind of thing that floats your boat, if you want to see revisiting and deep dives into the topics that Al and I discussed, then go to dptm.org, sign your email up, and you'll start receiving the DPTM newsletter. And another exciting thing just what I've got here, these bad boys are making their way around the world this week. These are for anyone who's listening, have a look on the YouTube and you will see me holding up the members only stickers designed by Apricot Pepsi.
Can you hold it right up?
Yeah.
Can you hold it right up? See if it will focus on. Yeah.
Look at that. There's Alec and Hilaria. There's me and Al as zombies. There's me as, I guess that's me as a Hawaiian shirted cyborg hugging Al, who looks a bit upset. There's Al.
I loved that one.
There's friend of the show, Ray Gun, who's having a Netflix special released shortly, which we'll probably have to talk about at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah,
amazing.
Sign up at DPTM Patreon and you can get your hands on one of those sticker packs if that's what floats your boat.
Beautiful. Can't wait to start seeing some of them around the world, out and about. It's going to be super exciting. Thank you so much, John, and thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in this weekend. We can't wait to see you next week.
The podcast. Oh.